On the day of Pei Lin's grand wedding, I charged in clad in crimson. He held his lovely bride's hand, publicly humiliating me. Is the princess perhaps joining us? For you. Becoming a concubine might not be out of the question. Only then did I realize the vows of youth were but a joke. He had loved only my status. Later, as I caressed my male lover within my chambers, he raved outside, begging me to come out. I was the most proud and unrestrained eldest princess of the great Shun dynasty. From birth, I received boundless favor and honor, until my maternal grandfather's family committed a grave offense, and my mother, the Empress Dowager, took her own life in shame. My father, the emperor, grew cold toward me as well. Pei Lin, however, treated me as he always had, never once showing the slightest coldness. When my mother was alive, my father had betrothed me to him, a fact known to all. Yet, mere months before my comingafage ceremony, he abruptly broke the engagement. My younger sister, Su Yunma, daughter of Empress Zhang, became his betrothed instead. On the day of Pei Lin's wedding, clad in crimson, I charged forward sword in hand, without my mother or maternal grandfather to support me. I endured unimaginable suffering in the ruthless palace. Back then, it was Pei Lin who offered me warmth. Bit by bit, he pulled me back from the abyss. I simply couldn't believe he would cast me into such utter despair. When Pei Lin saw me, shock flashed in his eyes, but it vanished quickly, ignoring the mocking stares around us. I stepped forward with my sword raised and demanded, Pei Lin, must you marry her today? He stood with Su Yunma, her face still hidden beneath the red veil, his smile thin and forced. The eldest princess has arrived. Could it be you wish to join us? Su Yunmo's body trembled slightly. This remark not only humiliated me but also brought shame upon Su Yunma. Yet this marriage was one she had seized. No matter how disgraceful, she must endure it. I stared at him in disbelief. The man before me bore none of his former brilliance. A mocking smile played on his lips as he pressed his taunt. As for you, becoming a concubine wouldn't be so bad. His words finally made me see clearly the promises of youth were nothing but a joke. He had only ever loved my status. I laughed softly, raised my sword, and swung it at the stone lion beside us. The blade snapped clean in two. Since that is the case, from now on, this palace and the prince consort shall be as the sword. No trace of past affection remains. I paused, then turned to congratulate Su Yunma. And congratulations to you, sister, for achieving your wish. Su Yunma responded promptly. Thank you for your kind words, elder sister. Her voice remained as cautious as ever, as if I were the one who had oppressed her. I offered no reply. Turning to leave, all knew that I, Su Yunwei, possessed an indomitable spirit. When Su Yunma falsely accused me of stealing her jewels, I endured torture without uttering a single word of denial. Today, I would not allow myself to lose even the last shred of dignity. After several days of drinking at home, I staggered into Nanfeng Pavilion, my usual haunt. The male courtesan who had once been showered with my favors immediately swayed toward me, but I pushed him away, pointing at a new face playing the zither. I commanded, bring him. The courtesan nearby scrambled to appease me with a smile. Your Highness, I'm terribly sorry. He only sells his art, not his body. I ran my fingers through his hair and smiled. What have I ever desired that I haven't obtained? Half an incense stick's time. Bring him to my guest quarters. I've always been accustomed to flaunting my power. Once, a male companion nearly discussed my relationship with Pei Lin and Su Yunma in my presence. I crippled his legs, ensuring he could never stand again. Experience has taught me that constant subservience only encourages others to push their boundaries. What matters is being ruthless enough to make others hesitate before approaching you. Without lifting an eyelid, I turned and ascended the stairs. The madam knew her place, delivering the man in less than half an incense stick's time. He stood opposite me, head bowed, posture rigid, though veiled. His handsome features were unmistakable. My curiosity piqued. I beckoned him forward. Come closer. He obeyed promptly, walking over and kneeling before me. I lifted his chin, forcing him to meet my gaze. One glance was all it took to captivate me. His eyes were tear-filled and pitifully endearing. I couldn't help but imagine how irresistible he'd look when I made him cry. His gaze bore a striking resemblance to that of the fox I'd raised for years. It was a pure silver fox, snow white from head to tail. Years ago, during the grand hunting festival, Pei Lin had captured this fox. The look in its eyes when it met mine was identical to this one's. My heart had softened, and I'd taken it in. Pei Lin even praised my innate kindness, saying I was destined for great fortune. Snapping back to reality, I curved my lips. Would you be willing to become my face master? I expected him to refuse, but without a moment's hesitation, he nodded. I laughed suddenly, lifting his face to study it closely, then returned to my residence with me. I had never brought a male favorite back to the palace before, but considering his shrewdness, why not grant him this honor? In the carriage, he remained silent, not even daring to look me in the eye. Do you have a name? I asked. He shook his head. This servant begs the princess to bestow a name. After a moment's thought, I spoke slowly. Then you shall be called Rongjing. Remove your veil. Let me see. He complied obediently, peeling it back inch by inch, though his ears flushed crimson for no apparent reason. When his full face came into view, I nearly gasped aloud. I had thought Pei Lin was the most handsome man in the world, but Rongjing, dressed only in plain robes, surpassed him 100-fold. I felt a surge of secret delight, though I kept my composure, forcing calmness. Not bad. Rongjing quickly bowed his head, his face flushing bright red. In a voice barely audible, he murmured, Rongjing thanks the princess for her praise. At the entrance to the princess' residence, Rongjing dismounted from the carriage before me. As I lifted the curtain, he stepped forward to steady me. Your Highness, the ground is slippery after the rain. Allow me to carry you. I paused, then caught Pei Lin's gaze from several meters away. Slowly, I curved my lips into a smile. Very well though, I must say, this has piqued my interest. With that, I grabbed his collar, pressed my hand against his throat, and pressed my lips fiercely against his. Pei Lin's gaze nearly burned holes through my back. I intended for him to see clearer, the better. Rongjing obediently lowered his eyes, letting me pry open his teeth. When the kiss ended, I pulled away leisurely. General Pei. I turned my head, eyes crinkling with a smile. Any further instructions? Pei Lin stared fixedly at my hand draped over Rongjing's shoulder, each word seeming to be ground out between clenched teeth. Su Yunwei, you truly keep surprising me. Flattery, I replied, lifting my hand to smooth the collar I'd ruffled on Rongjing, my tone flirtatious. After all, I can't compare to General Pei dangling vows of eternal love to an ex while embracing a new lover in the bridal chamber. That skill of pleasing both sides. I'll need a few more years to master it. His face instantly turned ashen. Before he could speak, I hooked my arm through Rongjing's, deliberately softening my voice to a sweet, seductive murmur. Jingling, let's return to the mansion. I'm in quite the mood today. Rongjing murmured in compliance. Yes, princess. Just as I turned, my peripheral vision caught a slender figure standing silently in the shadows at the distant alley entrance. Su Yunma. She stood there without an umbrella, gazing at Pei Lin's retreating back before shifting her eyes toward me. The instant our eyes met, Su Yunma instinctively flinched backward before vanishing into the depths of the alley. Princess. Rongjing's voice snapped me back to reality. He stepped aside to let me pass, still wearing that submissive, meek expression. I couldn't tell if it was my imagination, but I felt his gaze toward the direction Su Yunma had disappeared was unnervingly calm. I suppressed all emotion, linking my arm through his as we crossed the threshold. Rongjing supported me as we walked toward the inner courtyard. Neither of us speaking. Only after we passed through the carved gate did he speak softly. Princess, you were using Rongjing to provoke General Pei. My steps faltered slightly as I turned my head to look at him. The flickering light from the lanterns danced across his face, obscuring his expression. So what if I did? I raised an eyebrow. Having followed me, you should know what sort of person I am. Rongjing understands. He curved his lips into a barely perceptible smile. To serve as the blade in the prince's hand is Rongjing's honor. His words were respectful. Yet I detected a different undertone. I stopped, turned to face him, and lifted his chin with my fingers, forcing him to meet my gaze. Rongjing, you'd better truly understand. I tolerate no sand in my eyes, and I'll brook no wavering loyalty. He let me hold him. The princess need not test me. Rongjing was brought back to the mansion by the princess. For this life, I answered to no one but you. The patter of rain made his voice sound especially clear. I stared into his eyes, beautiful to a fault, searching for any trace of deception, but found none. Either his acting was flawless, or he spoke the truth. After Rongjing entered the mansion, I indulged in revelry night after night. On the 7th day, I sobered up completely, pushing open the window. I saw Rongjing practicing swordsmanship in the courtyard. His plain white inner robe and loose jet-black hair gave him an air of battlefield prowess. This was not the posture one expected of a Nanfeng pavilion musician. The princess has awakened. He sheathed his sword and turned. Rongjing brewed a sobering decoction and kept it warm on the stove, leaning against the window. I studied him. How thoughtful of you. But I wonder, since when did Nanfeng Pavilion teach swordplay? He smiled calmly. Before our family's decline. I studied martial arts with a master. Later, when I fell into hardship, these skills became my means of self-preservation. A lie. But I let it pass. These past 7 days, I had my secret guards investigate his background. He hails from Rome village, 30 miles outside the capital. Orphaned young. He was sold into Nanfeng Pavilion at 10. His surname was a convenient coincidence for me to adopt, but his history is too clean, almost as if meticulously scripted. Yet what I, Su Yunwei, excel at most is watching others perform. Come here. I beckoned with a flick of my finger. He set down his sword and approached obediently. Accompany this princess to the palace today. His eyes flickered. Rongjing's lowly status may taint the palace gates. This princess says you may go. So you shall go. I withdrew my hand and turned to change. Change your clothes, Mr. Rong. As the carriage rolled toward the imperial palace, I closed my eyes in feigned slumber. Yet I could feel Rongjing's gaze fixed upon me. Amusing. Upon entering the palace gates, we happened upon Pei Lin's carriage. He had just emerged from the palace, likely returning from reporting duties. Spotting my carriage, he reined in his horse, his gaze fixed on Rongjing beside me, darkening instantly. What refined taste, Your Highness, he sneered, to bring him into the palace. Fear not defiling the emperor's eyes. I lifted the curtain, smiling brightly, not like General Pei, newlywed. What's this? Not keeping Cloud Jasmine company today. The veins in his reins gripping hand bulged. But he ultimately said nothing. Spurring his horse away, Rongjing asked softly, does the princess have old grievances with him? Old grievances. I chuckled lightly. Nothing more than a bite from a stray dog. Rest assured, they'll skin him alive sooner or later. Turning to Rongjing, I saw him lower his eyes. Silent. His ears flushing crimson once more. He plays the part so convincingly. Father's illness had worsened. Since his injury during the autumn hunt, he had not left his bed. The crown prince proved incapable of bearing responsibility. So most memorials from the court were reviewed by me. Entering the hall of mental cultivation, the pungent medicinal scent was almost suffocating. Empress Zhang stood vigil by the bed. Seeing me enter, a flicker of jealous hatred crossed her eyes. Yunwei has arrived. Father's voice was hoarse. He beckoned me forward. And this, Your Majesty, this is my newly recruited court musician, Rongjing. I curtsied. I brought him to entertain you. Rongjing knelt and bowed, his posture respectful. The emperor studied him for a moment before suddenly saying, Raise your head. Rongjing lifted his face, and I saw a flicker of shock in the emperor's eyes. Such beauty. The emperor coughed. Yunwei, stay. I have something to discuss with you. Empress Zhang discreetly withdrew, and Rongjing followed the palace attendants out of the hall. The doors closed. Father Emperor propped himself up. Where did you find this boy? Nanfeng Pavilion. I remained impassive. Does Father Emperor recognize him? He fell silent for a long moment before sighing deeply. He resembles him too much. Especially those eyes, they bear an uncanny resemblance to Grand Tutor Rong from years past. Grand Tutor Rong. The Rong family executed 20 years ago for treason. Shocked, I forced a smile. Father, you jest. A mere courtesan like me is unworthy of comparison to Grand Tutor Rong. I hope my eyes deceive me, Father said, closing his eyes. Yunwei, the court is unstable these days. The Zhang clan is stirring. You must be cautious. This daughter understands. Exiting the hall of mental cultivation, Rongjing waited beneath the eaves, gazing at him. I suddenly recalled an old tale. On the day the Rong family was executed, an 80-year-old boy vanished neither alive nor dead. No trace found. If he truly is the Rong family's sole survivor, what does he seek by entering my princess residence? Princess, Rongjing called softly. I snapped back to reality. Rongjing, if one day this princess falls from grace, what would you do? His gaze was clear as he spoke, word by word. In this life, Rongjing recognizes only the princess as his master. A lie, but I liked hearing it. 3 days later, turmoil erupted in the court. Deputy Minister of Revenue Li Qingzhen was accused of embezzling military funds, with irrefutable evidence. Li Qingzhen was Empress Zhang's cousin and also Pei Lin's secret ally within the court. This scandal enraged the emperor. During the morning court session, the emperor slammed the memorial onto the ground. Investigate. Investigate thoroughly for me. I knelt. Your Majesty, please calm your anger. Your humble son may know something about this matter. Speak. Last month, while inspecting the northern garrison, your humble son observed that the soldiers' winter clothing was thin. Upon inquiry, I learned that military funds had been embezzled. Your humble son investigated secretly and discovered that the silver had flowed to. I raised my eyes. Flowed to General Pei's newly built villa. Pei Lin's face darkened. Princess, watch your words. That villa was built with my personal salary. Is that so? I chuckled softly. Then might I ask, General, how did you construct a Jiangnan garden worth 10,000 taels when your monthly salary is merely 800? Pei Lin glared at me, his eyes boiling with murderous intent. After court adjourned, he intercepted me on the palace path. Su Yunwei, must you do this? You abandoned your duty first. I replied coldly. The day you chose Su Yunma, you should have known this day would come. You will regret this. This princess never regrets anything. He swept away, his sleeves billowing. I stood rooted to the spot, watching his figure vanish around the palace wall's corner, my heart utterly still. Rongjing emerged from behind a corridor pillar, draping a cloak over my shoulders. Princess, the wind is rising. I turned my head to look at him. What do you make of today's events in court? The princess outmaneuvered him. He paused. But Pei Lin won't let this rest. I know. I tightened my grip on the dagger hidden in my sleeve. Therefore, we must ensure he never rises again. The day Su Yunma came to the princess' residence, the first snow of winter fell, dressed in plain white robes, her face bare of makeup. She knelt in the snow, pleading to see me, when the gatekeeper announced her arrival. Rongjing was playing the zither for me. The music stopped abruptly. Shall I receive the princess? He asked, his fingertips still resting on the trembling strings. Receive her. I pulled my fox fur cloak tighter around me, watching the snow swirling outside the window. Why should I refuse? I'm quite curious to see what new drama this dear sister has concocted. When Su Yunma was brought in, she was shivering violently, her hair still clinging to patches of unmelted snow. She knelt the moment she entered. Sister, in 3 months, on the late Emperor's Memorial Day, Pei Lin plans to strike at the Imperial Ancestral Temple. He intends to kill you. I sipped my tea deliberately, suppressing the turmoil within. My dear sister. This is an intriguing claim. General Pei is a pillar of the court. How could he commit such an act of disrespect on the late Emperor's Memorial Day? Besides, why would he kill me? Because you stand in his way. Sister. She lifted her head, her eyes red-rimmed, showing no sign of acting. He has pledged allegiance to Mother. Sister. You command the 100,000 troops of the northern frontier and are the eldest legitimate princess. You are their greatest obstacle. Sister. Do you have evidence for these claims? I set down my teacup. Accusing a general and the empress of treason with mere words is a grave crime. Su Yunma pulled a stack of letters from her bosom, the paper slightly weathered. These are copies of secret correspondence between Pei Lin, Mother, and the Khan of the northern barbarians. They promise to cede 3 northern provinces if third brother ascends the throne. I took them and flipped through the pages. The more I read, the heavier my heart grew. These letters were half-truths, half-lies. The false parts were so deliberately fabricated, as if they feared I might not spot the flaws. If I used these to make accusations, I would surely be turned against. What an exquisitely crafted scheme. What a ruthless calculation. I looked up at her. She stared back nervously, her fingers unconsciously twisting the hem of her robe.He habit Shed had since childhood whenever Shed done something wrong. Why help me? I placed the letters gently on the table. Wouldn't handing these to Empress Zhang or Pei Lin better protect you? After all, you are now Lady Pei. Su Yunma froze. She stared into my eyes for an eternity, so long that the snowlight filtering through the paper window cast flickering shadows across her pallid face. Then she smiled a smile that sent a chill through me. Because I refuse to watch you repeat the same mistake. Repeat the same mistake. I raised an eyebrow. When have I ever repeated the same mistake? Her mouth opened, but the words Shed gathered swallowed back, dissolving into a soft sigh. Sister. Consider this. A sudden pang of conscience from your younger sister. Pei Lin is no suitable match. If he betrayed you today for power and influence, tomorrow he could kill you for greater gain. Sister, you speak as though you've experienced this firsthand. I remarked casually. Her entire body trembled violently, and she instinctively clutched her robe. The movement was too swift to conceal. Sister jests. She forced herself to remain composed. I signaled to Rongjing. Take my sister to the West Wing and see she is well cared for. Sister. Su Yunma tried to protest. I patted her hand and offered a reassuring smile. Rest assured, little sister. Now that you're in the princess residence, I shall protect you. She thanked me profusely before following Rongjing out. The door closed, and Rongjing soon returned. Princess. Those letters. Fakes. I said coldly. But half were genuine. Pei Lin did conspire with border commanders, and Empress Zhang did have ties to the northern D. They just wouldn't leave such obvious evidence behind. Then second young miss. I walked to the window, watching the snow fall heavier. But part of what she said was true. Rongjing fell silent for a moment. How does your highness intend to proceed? Well, play along with her scheme. I turned, gazing toward the western wing. Understood. After Rongjing withdrew, I stood alone by the window for a long time. Su Yunmo's words repeating the same mistakes echoed relentlessly in my ears. What was she confirming? That I was still alive. That none of this had happened yet. A preposterous thought suddenly darted into my mind. What if? What if she had truly witnessed the repeating of past mistakes? I walked to the writing desk, picked up a brush, and wrote a few words. Investigate Su Yunma. All movements over the past year. Who she met. What books she read. If it were truly as I suspected, then all of this would become quite interesting. At the third watch of midnight, 3 black-clad figures infiltrated the West Wing. By the time I rushed over, robed and ready, the last assassin had bitten into a poison sac. Rong Jing knelt down, retrieved a jade pendant from the man's chest, and handed it to me. It was Pei Lin's personal possession. But the craftsmanship was too fresh, clearly a recent forgery. Clumsy. I sneered coldly. Seems Pei Lin is truly desperate, even his frame-up is this half-hearted. The secret chamber door opened, and Su Yunma was led out. Her face was pale, yet she remained composed. Sister. Her voice trembled. You've been frightened, little sister. I took her hand. Rest assured. The assassins are dead. But we found this on them. I held the jade pendant before her. Su Yunma stared at it. Then suddenly smiled a smile so forced it looked like crying. Do you see clearly now, little sister? I sighed. Was betraying me for him worth it? She lifted her head. Not worth it. That's why you must win. Sister. Her words were whispered softly, yet weighed like 1,000 pounds. What do you know? Little sister. Speak plainly. I motioned for Rong Jing to withdraw, leaving only us two in the secret chamber. Su Yunma took a deep breath. The Empress Dowager is not my birth mother. My mother was her foot-washing maid. After she poisoned her to death, I was raised under her name. All these years, I've lived in constant fear, dreading the slightest misstep. She paused. But what I dread most is becoming someone like her. Sister, she killed your mother, and now she seeks to harm you. I cannot stand by and watch. So you're helping me. So am helping you. Sister, she met my gaze directly, not only because you saved me years ago, but also because, in this palace, you are the only one left who still acts like a human being. Her words carried such weight that I was momentarily speechless. I turned to Su Yunma. What are your plans now, little sister? If you don't mind, I wish to remain in the princess residence. She knelt, enunciating each word carefully, not as Lady Pei, nor as the second princess, but simply as Su Yunma, a wretched soul desperate to survive. I helped her up. Very well. From this day forward, you shall be severely injured and unconscious. Once the turmoil subsides, I shall arrange a new identity for you and send you away from the capital. No. She shook her head. I wish to stay and witness them receiving their just deserts. The hatred in her eyes ran too deep, far too deep for a 16-year-old maiden confined to her chambers. After escorting her back to the secret chamber, I stood alone in the courtyard. The snow had ceased. Rong Jing draped a cloak over my shoulders. Do you trust her, princess? Not entirely. I gazed up at the sky. But her hatred for Empress Zhang and Pei Lin is genuine. That is enough. Something about her words felt off. You noticed too. I smiled bitterly. Rong Jing, do you believe in past lives? He fell silent for a moment. This servant believes only in this life. Neither do I. I clasped his hand tightly. But if there truly were past lives, then in this one, I shall never lose again. He clasped my hand in return, his palm warm. This servant will always be by your side. Princess. Snowlight illuminated his profile. In those eyes lay a depth I could not fathom. Rong Jing, I asked softly, if I told you I intend to seize that throne, what would you do? He replied, I would never leave your side. In life or death. I helped him rise. Very well. From this day forward, you are no longer Rong Jing, the male favorite. You are my strategist, my arm, my soulmate. He finished. his eyes softening with tenderness. One more thing. I fixed my gaze upon him. Who are you truly? The sole survivor of the Rong family, or something else entirely? He closed his eyes briefly. When they opened again, the feigned docility had vanished completely, replaced by a bloodthirsty sharpness. The eldest grandson of the Rong family, the sole survivor of the massacre that wiped out my entire clan 20 years ago. My approach to the princess serves two purposes: vengeance, and why? The princess and I are alike. When necessary, I too shall become her sharpest blade. He gently took my hand. I froze. After a long moment, I stood on tiptoe and kissed the corner of his lips. Rong Jing, if I fail, will you die with me? I will. His answer was without hesitation. But I would rather live with the princess. Good. I nestled into his embrace, gazing toward the palace gates. Then let us change the color of the sky over this great Shun dynasty. Snow began to fall again, swirling and drifting. This time, I was not alone. Over the next 3 months, turmoil engulfed the imperial court. Pei Lin faced successive impeachments, embezzling military funds, condoning his subordinates' oppression of the people. Evidence piled up against him. Exhausted by the backlash, his military authority was steadily eroded. Empress Zhang also faced trouble. Her father, Zhang Heng, Minister of Personnel, was exposed for selling official posts, with many of his students implicated. Though the emperor did not immediately impose severe punishment, he clearly distanced himself from the Zhang family. Most of this was orchestrated by me in the shadows. Though some moves were indeed Rong Jing's handiwork, he had hidden agents within the court. Those seemingly neutral elder ministers always sided with me when it mattered. How many years have you been planning this? I finally asked one day. Rong Jing, grinding ink for me, looked up. Since I was 13, when I learned the truth about the Rong family massacre. Do you hate it? I do. He paused. But what I hate more is that this dynasty has rotted to such a state that no one can save it. Until I met the princess. In you, I saw a vitality I had never encountered before. Flatterer. I smiled. So you're using this palace as your blade? No. He set down the inkstick and took my hand. I'm serving the princess as a wise ruler deserves. This little fox is truly smooth-talking. What am I to do? Growing more reluctant to part with him, our palms pressed together, warmth blending. My heart skipped a beat. Just then, a secret guard rushed in with urgent news. Pei Lin, cornered like a dog, was secretly mobilizing troops from the imperial garrison outside the capital, seemingly plotting a coup. He's finally making his move. I sneered. What of Father Emperor? His Majesty is gravely ill, unconscious for 3 days now. Empress Zhang has sealed the Hall of Cultivating the Heart, barring all visitors. I turned to Rong Jing. The time has come. The late Emperor's Memorial Day. Heavy snow fell. Dressed in mourning robes, I knelt at the foremost position among the imperial women. Beside me stood Empress Zhang. She appeared unusually composed today, yet her eyes betrayed an unchecked smugness. Pei Lin stood in full military attire, commanding the imperial guards at the ancestral temple. By protocol, generals must remove armor and swords for memorial rites, yet he remained fully armed, his wolfish ambitions laid bare. Midway through the ceremony, a squad of assassins leapt from the palace roof, charging toward the dragon throne. Father, who had forced himself to attend despite his illness, sat weakly upon the throne. At the critical moment, Rong Jing suddenly appeared, slaying 3 assassins. Protect His Majesty, he shouted. More imperial guards poured in from outside the hall, not Pei Lin's men. The leading commander was unfamiliar, yet he held aloft the tiger token I had given him. Pei Lin's face paled. You, General Pei. I rose slowly, shedding my mourning robes to reveal the court attire embroidered with a golden phoenix beneath. What punishment befits one who secretly mobilizes the imperial garrison, colludes with assassins to strike at His Majesty? You slander me. He drew his sword. Imperial guards. Heed my command. The princess consort plots rebellion, kill her without mercy. Yet the guards stood utterly still. Empress Zhang finally panicked. Have you all rebelled? It is you who have rebelled. Your Majesty the Empress. I stepped before her, producing the secret letter, colluding with border commanders, smuggling military supplies, poisoning His Majesty. Do you admit to these crimes? Father began coughing violently, pointing at Empress Zhang. Wicked woman. How dare you? Your Majesty, please calm your anger. The imperial physician rushed forward. Just then, Pei Lin suddenly lunged forward, thrusting his sword directly at my throat. Princess, beware. Rongjing flew forward to block the strike. The dull thud of blade meeting flesh echoed. Rongjing stood before me. Pei Lin's sword pierced his shoulder, blood splattering onto my face. Time seemed to freeze. I looked down at Rongjing's pale face, then up at Pei Lin's ferocious expression, and something inside me snapped completely. Kill him, I said coldly, seeing the tide had turned. Pei Lin grabbed the wounded Rongjing and pressed his sword against the man's throat. Everyone step back, or I'll kill him. I raised my hand to halt the attack. Rongjing looked at me, saying nothing, only shaking his head gently. Leave me be. I read his lips. Saddle the horses. Pei Lin's roar echoed through the ancestral temple. Or I'll kill him. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Pei Lin, I began, my voice steady to a fault. Do you remember when I was 15? And you taught me archery? He faltered. You said, Su Yunwei, keep your heart still, your hands steady, and your eyes focused. I raised my voice abruptly. The place you wanted me to focus on. Rongjing's shoulder bled profusely. Yet he shook his head at me. Princess, don't worry about me. I looked at them and suddenly smiled, a smile that sent shivers down Pei Lin's spine. What are you laughing at? I'm laughing at your stupidity. I slowly raised my hand as a guard behind me handed me a bow. Did you really think taking him hostage could threaten me? I drew the bowstring, nocked an arrow. The arrowhead gleamed coldly in the firelight, aimed squarely at Rongjing's heart. Pei Lin's pupils contracted sharply. I detest being threatened. My voice was eerily calm. And besides, he's merely a male favorite. If he dies, I'll find another. But today, you must die. With that, the arrow left the string. That shot missed its mark by 3 inches. The arrowhead sank into Rongjing's left chest, missing his heart by a hair's breadth. He gave a muffled groan, staring at me in disbelief, something shattering in his eyes. Pei Lin froze too. He probably hadn't expected me to actually pull the trigger. In that split second of his distraction, a hidden dart flew from the shadows, striking his wrist. The sword clattered to the ground as Rongjing staggered backward. My second arrow pierced Pei Lin's throat. His eyes widened, fixed on me as he slowly collapsed. Blood surged from his throat, blooming into a blinding crimson on the snow. Clean up the mess. I tossed aside my bow and approached Rongjing. He knelt in the snow, clutching his wound. Blood seeped through his fingers, staining his robe crimson. I crouched down, tearing off a piece of my robe to bandage him. My movements were rough, yet he uttered not a sound. Do you hate me? I asked. He lifted his head, his eyes churning with emotion before settling into a sigh. Your choice was the right one. Wrong. I cut him off. That arrow could have killed Pei Lin. It missed by 3 inches because my hand trembled. He froze. Rongjing, listen carefully. I cupped his face, forcing him to meet my gaze. Before today, I did consider that if pushed to the absolute limit, I could abandon you. But the moment the arrow left the bowstring, I realized I couldn't bear to part with you. Snowflakes settled on his lashes, crystalline as tears. Therefore, you must live. I wiped the blood from his face. If you die, even if I gain this empire, it would feel utterly meaningless. He smiled, a faint flush returning to his pallid cheeks. Rongjing obeys. I helped him rise and looked toward the imperial ancestral temple. Empress Zhang had been subdued. Father, revived by the imperial physicians, gazed at me with a complex expression. Yunwei. His voice was weak. You, father, focus on your recovery. I bowed. I shall handle court affairs for now. Once you are well, the throne shall be yours again. Pei Lin was executed. The Zhang clan fell. After this ordeal, my father's health collapsed completely. Half a month later, he issued an edict transferring the throne to me. On the day the edict was issued, opposition within the court was significant, but Rongjing silenced it all by means unknown. He managed to shut the mouths of several stubborn old ministers. The night before my coronation, I went to the secret chamber to see Su Yunma. After 3 months apart, she looked much more haggard, her eyes holding only calmness. Have you come to see me off? She asked. I promised to spare your life, I said, sitting down. Tomorrow, you will pass away from illness. Then a carriage will take you to Jiangnan, where a mansion awaits enough for you to live out your days in peace. She smiled bitterly. Why not just kill me? Why do you always forgive me? Because you finally spoke the truth, I said, looking at her. And also because I once truly regarded you as my sister. She wept, her sobs wrenching and heartrending. Leaving the dark chamber, Rongjing waited for me beneath the moon. His wounds had largely healed, though his complexion remained pale. Everything arranged? I asked. Yes. He handed me a sealed report. An urgent dispatch from the frontier. The northern D tribes are stirring. The prince's first act upon ascending the throne will be to wage war on the border. I took the report and suddenly asked. Rongjing, once the realm is stabilized, what do you wish to do? He remained silent for a long while before softly replying. I wish to visit the ancestral home of the Rong family. I hear there's a plum grove on the back mountain. It should be in bloom now. Very well. I nodded. I shall accompany you then. He lifted his eyes, starlight in his gaze. Your Majesty, I thank you. On the 16th day of the first month in the first year of Yongchang, I ascended the throne as emperor. Establishing the era named Yongchang, I became the first female emperor of the Great Shun dynasty. On the day of the coronation ceremony, Rongjing stood at the head of the officials, clad in his black official robes. He was now the imperial tutor, wielding immense power throughout the court. With the court barely stabilized, the frontier faced urgent peril. 100,000 cavalry of the northern D tribes pressed against our borders, breaching 3 cities in succession. Calls for peace grew loud within the court, some even suggesting sending a royal prince as a peace offering. But what prince did I have? Your Majesty. This servant requests to lead the troops. Rongjing stepped forward. The court erupted in commotion. For the foremost civil official to volunteer for battle was unheard of. Yet I granted his request. I grant you 300,000 troops in 3 months. I demand the northern Dis surrender. He knelt. Your servant obeys. On the day of departure, I saw him off at the city gate, blinded by snow and wind. I fastened his cloak. Return alive. He clasped my hand. Your Majesty promised to watch plum blossoms with me. I dare not die. As the army marched away, I stood on the city ramparts, watching the black banners vanish into the blizzard. A hollow emptiness settled in my heart. Each day of those 3 months was agony. The battle reports fluctuated between good and bad. The most perilous one reported had fallen into an ambush, his fate unknown. That night, I smashed every porcelain piece in my bedchamber. Then I issued an edict. Should Rongjing die in battle, I would have the entire northern D tribe buried alive with him. Thankfully, he survived. On the day the 3-month deadline passed, triumphant news arrived. The northern D king had submitted a letter of surrender, ceding 1,000 li of territory, pledging allegiance, and agreeing to pay tribute. Jing returned, bearing scars and glorious military achievements. In the imperial court, I conferred upon him the title of Duke of the State. That night at the palace banquet, I drank more than usual. Returning to my chambers, I sat alone by the window listening to the rain. After an unknown span of time, footsteps approached from behind. Your Majesty. I did not turn. Jing. You are now a duke with your own residence. He fell silent for a moment. Does your Majesty wish to send me away? I fear. I turned, meeting his deep gaze. I fear that one day, you might feel confined by staying by my side. He smiled, taking my hand to press against his forehead. The greatest blessing of my life was the day I was sent to the princess' residence. If your Majesty feels it is a confinement, then I wish to be bound to you for all eternity. My heart trembled. Jing, do you know what you're saying? I know. He lifted his head, his eyes burning. I'm saying I love your Majesty, not as a subject loves a sovereign, but as a man loves a woman. I had waited for these words. I leaned down and captured his lips with a kiss. He stiffened for a moment before responding passionately. That night, no one disturbed us. Spring, the third year of Yongchang. The empire was at peace, the court stable. I issued an edict for an imperial tour south, with the first stop being the ancestral home of the Rong family in Jiangnan. The old mansion, uninhabited for 20 years, had been restored to its former glory under official repairs. One day, servants discovered a painting in the study. It depicted a little girl teasing a rabbit beneath a plum tree. The brushwork was childish, yet the inscription bore Grand Tutor Rong's handwriting. To my young friend Yunwei, wishing you health and happiness year after year. The date marked the year before the Rong family's downfall, so we had met long ago. I was 5 then, visiting the Rong residence with my mother to admire the plum blossoms. I pestered Grand Tutor Rong for a rabbit lantern. The young master of the Rong household peeked from beneath the eaves. Caught red-handed by me, I shared half my osmanthus cake with him. So it was you. I murmured softly. The plum grove on the back mountain still stood, though overgrown. Yet several ancient plum trees stubbornly bloomed. Jing and I stood side by side beneath the blossoms, petals drifting onto our shoulders. As a child, I often played here. He whispered. My grandfather taught me to read. My mother played the zither beneath these trees. Those days feel like a dream now. I took his hand. It was no dream. The injustice against the Rong family. I have issued an edict to clear their name. Your grandfather has been posthumously honored as Grand Tutor. The Rong family shrine will be rebuilt. Its incense burning eternally. He turned and knelt. I steadied him. Jing. Today there is no emperor and subject, only you and me. He gazed at me, his eyes brimming with tears. Yunwei. I smiled. Say it again. Yunwei. He drew me into his embrace. My Yunwei. Plum blossoms drifted down, blending into the silhouette of our entwined figures. Distant landscapes unfolded like paintings. My beloved rested close. Jing. The plum blossoms have bloomed. How lovely. Yes. How lovely. Su Yunma. The side story. Sister. I saw how you died. I died on a night when the first snow fell. When Pei Lin's sword pierced my chest, I felt surprisingly little pain. Perhaps because my heart had already died the day I saw your coffin. Your funeral was hastily arranged. Pei Lin claimed she died of illness, burying her hastily without even admitting her to the imperial mausoleum. When I went to pay my respects, I saw blood seeping from the cracks of the coffin, dark red, already dried. I reached out to touch it, suddenly remembering when I was 10, I'd been hiding behind the rockery in the imperial garden, crying, when my sister found me and handed me a warm pear blossom pastry. What good does crying do? She frowned, her tone sharp. If someone bullies you, fight back. If you can't win, come find me. But in the end, she died. I failed to protect her, and I failed to avenge her. The day I awoke reborn was the eve of my coming-of-age ceremony. The mirror still reflected my 15-year-old face, free of the fine lines that would later appear at the corners of my eyes. I stared at myself for a long time, then pinched myself hard. It hurt. Empress Zheng entered, dressed in splendid robes, her hair adorned with jewels and pearls. She smiled as she stroked my cheek. Yunma will come of age tomorrow. Mother has found you a fine match. I knew what she meant. Pei Lin, the man who had killed my sister and me in my past life. Your daughter leaves it entirely to mother's discretion. I replied with an obedient smile. My fingernails dug into my palm until blood seeped out. It didn't hurt, compared to Pei Lin's sword piercing my heart in my past life. This was nothing. That year, I was 12. Empress Zheng had made too many enemies in court, and someone had set their sights on me. It was a winter night. Just after the palace banquet ended, I had knocked over a teacup, so Empress Zheng punished me by making me kneel outside the hall for an hour. The palace maids and matrons were all attending to the banquet. No one came to check on me. My knees went numb from kneeling. I thought, just 15 more minutes, then I could go back. Then a sharp pain struck the back of my neck, and everything went black. When I awoke, I found myself in a dilapidated room I'd never seen before. My hands and feet were bound with hemp rope, and my mouth was gagged. The room was bitterly cold. The paper window was torn, and wind whistled through the gap, wearing only my thin palace robes. I shivered uncontrollably. 3 masked men had captured me. They spoke with northern accents. Is this brat really Empress Zheng's daughter? One asked. Yes. Zheng's family killed our general's entire household. Today we'll start with her daughter. Terrified, tears streamed down my face. I tried shaking my head, trying to say my mother had long since died, that I was merely a nominal adopted daughter, that Empress Zheng cared nothing for me. But my mouth was stuffed, and I could only make muffled sounds. They yanked me up and dragged me into the courtyard. Snow lay thick on the ground. My knees slammed against the stone slabs, the pain making my vision go dark. Write a letter, the leader ordered, flinging paper and brush at my feet. Tell your mother to come redeem you. Tell her if she wants her daughter's life, she must trade her own. My hands shook as I wrote, the characters crooked and slanted. I wrote that I'd been captured, that I was held in the abandoned city god temple west of the city, that they demanded to see Empress Zheng. The letter was delivered. I waited and waited, from noon until the sun dipped low in the west, cold and starving. My lips cracked from the frost. The 3 men grew increasingly impatient and began lashing me with whips. The first lash tore through me, and I screamed in agony. The second lash, the third lash. My clothes ripped, blood seeping through and staining the thin fabric. My voice cracked from crying as I begged them to stop. I told them the Empress Dowager would come. She absolutely would. Night fell. One of them went out to gather news and returned with a face as dark as iron. She never left the palace. The palace says the second princess wandered off on her own and went missing. They've no time for such trifles. My entire body froze. No time for trifles. I knew Empress Zheng disliked me. I knew I was merely a tool she used to display her benevolence. But I never imagined she wouldn't even care whether I lived or died. Damn it. All for nothing. The leader kicked me. Since Zhang doesn't want this daughter, don't blame us for being ruthless. They discussed what to do with me. One suggested killing and burying me. Another proposed selling me to a brothel. Yet another uttered even more horrifying words. Huddled in the corner, I dared not cry aloud, fearing I might provoke them. Just then, the sound of hooves echoed outside. Many hooves, mingled with the clang of swords and blades. Imperial guards. 3 men panicked. The temple door burst open with a kick. Flames flooded in, blinding me. Squinting, I saw a figure silhouetted against the light at the doorway clad in red, sword in hand. It was my sister. She was only 15 then. yet had already fought alongside our father on the battlefield. She scanned the temple's chaos, her gaze settling on me. "Kill them all," she said, without glancing at the fighting. She walked straight toward me. She crouched down and used her sword to cut the ropes binding me. When she saw the whip marks on my body, her hand trembled. "Don't be afraid." She embraced me, her movements a little clumsy but gentle. "I'll take you back to the palace." I couldn't hold back any longer. I burst into tears, clutching her sleeve tightly. "Sister, sister, I'm here." She lifted me up. Though only 3 years older than me, her embrace felt steady and secure. After my rebirth, I steeled my resolve and decided to marry Pei Lin. In my past life, I had tried telling my sister the truth. On the eve of her wedding, I knelt before her and said, "Pei Lin is no good man. He will bring about your ruin." She set down her wedding gown and gave me a faint glance. "Yun Ma, do you know what I hate most?" I shook my head. "I hate it when people meddle too much." She smiled. "Even if I lose, I want to lose on my own terms." So she lost. She lost her life. This time, I learned my lesson. I married him, becoming the most obedient pawn at Pei Lin's side. Then, at the height of his triumph, I plunged a blade into his heart. Whether I lived or died mattered little, just as it mattered little when I thought I'd die in that dilapidated temple at 12. On the wedding day, my sister arrived bearing a sword. I saw her standing in the snow, clad in crimson, like a burning ember. When Pei Lin hurled those humiliating words, I wanted to rush forward and cover his mouth. But I held back. I remembered how she looked when she died in my past life. Remembered the blood seeping from her coffin. This time, I'd rather she hated me than let her die. Before leaving, my sister glanced at me. Her gaze was distant, as if looking at a stranger. "Fine. Let her hate me." On our wedding night, Pei Lin stumbled and drunk, lifting my veil. "Know why you were allowed to marry into this family?" He pinched my chin. "Because your face bears a passing resemblance to hers." I laughed, tears streaming down my face. So that's it. So that's it. Life in the Pei residence felt like dancing on a knife's edge. I gathered evidence cautiously. Bit by bit, Pei Lin was cautious. But he had one flaw. He talked too much when drunk. Each time he got drunk, I coaxed him to talk about court affairs, about my sister. He cursed my sister for being ungrateful, cursed the Zhang family for their insatiable greed, cursed the old emperor for his senility. I listened, memorizing every word in my mind. Sometimes, deep into the quiet night, I would trace the whip scars on my arm. The marks had faded, but pressing my fingers could still feel the raised ridges. Each time I touched them, I recalled my sister storming into that dilapidated temple. I remembered her vow. This will never happen again. So in this lifetime, I would be the one to utter those words. When the embezzlement scandal erupted, I knew my chance had come. Sure enough, Pei Lin intended to sacrifice me as the scapegoat. Empress Zhang sent word. "Yun Ma, you know what must be done." I knew. She wanted me to die of illness or take my own Lefido vanish cleanly, just as she had wished me dead in that ruined temple at 12. But I didn't want to die. Not until I had dealt with Pei Lin. At least, the day I went to the princess residence. The snow fell thick and heavy. Kneeling in the snow, I recalled a snowy night from my past life. My sister had just been named regent princess and held a banquet in the palace. Several young ladies from prominent families mocked my old-fashioned attire, saying I was unworthy of sitting at the main table. My sister, who had been conversing with court officials, turned at the remark and shot those young ladies a cold, piercing glance. "My sister, do you think you have the right to criticize her? Su Yunwei, do you know? You are the very best sister in all the world." When I saw my sister, she was listening to Rong Jing play the zither. I had never seen that man in my previous life. I knelt down and spoke the words I had prepared. One by one, I said Pei Lin planned to strike on the late emperor's death anniversary. Spoke of Empress Zhang's conspiracy, and mentioned those half-truth, half-fabricated pieces of evidence. My sister's gaze was icy, as if appraising an object. I knew she didn't believe me. If I were in her place, I wouldn't believe it either. But some things must be said. Even if she only believed a fraction, even if she thought I was putting on a show, at least it might make her a little more vigilant. That night, when the assassins came, I hadn't actually been asleep. Hearing the sounds of struggle, I actually breathed a sigh of relief. Good. They came. It proved Pei Lin truly intended to kill me, and that sister would be more alert because of it. When sister entered, concern touched her face, but her eyes were scrutinizing. I told her everything I knew from my past life. By the end, I wept uncontrollably. It wasn't acting, it was genuine anguish. Agony over how cruelly my sister had died in that past life. Anguish over knowing everything yet being powerless to save her. Everything that followed the path of my past life. Yet it was different. Pei Lin died, perishing in that palace coup. Empress Zhang fell too, but my sister lived on, and Rongjing lived on too. They stood side by side before the imperial ancestral temple, like two trees whose branches intertwined. How wonderful! The days in the dark chamber were quiet. Sometimes I would trace the old scar on my arm, wondering if my fate might have been different had I been like this in my past life. Yet I also thought, perhaps this was the best possible outcome. The night before my sister ascended the throne, she came to see me, saying she would send me to Jiangnan. I cried, unwilling to leave. On the day I departed the capital, I went to the princess' residence once more. From afar, I saw my sister and Rongjing talking beneath the plum trees. She smiled, her smile radiant. It was a smile I had never seen in my past life. As the carriage rolled out of the city gates, I lifted the curtain and looked back. The city walls stood majestic. My son, at last, would no longer set behind the mountains. The Jiangnan residence was quiet, with several plum trees planted in the courtyard. The first year the blossoms bloomed, I received a letter. It bore no signature, but I recognized the handwriting. Only 4 words. Peace and health year after year. I sat beneath the plum tree, holding the letter, until the sun dipped below the horizon. The matron came to call me for supper. Seeing me weeping, she startled. I folded the letter carefully and tucked it into the deepest recess of the secret compartment. Nothing, I said with a smile, just thinking how beautifully the plum blossoms are blooming this year. This lifetime, I would finally not have to watch her die. I could finally stand in the sunlight and live properly. The end.